This is an open session that very rarely starts on time following a closed session. It's usually 1 hour late getting out of closed session. So I'm really impressed that we're able to start this one on time, not leaving you all in the hallway for that. The agenda for today is over by Savon. He's either pointing a camera or a gun.
You're from Oklahoma and you can't tell the difference?
Very good.
Savon will be passing out agendas.
Thanks.
The executive director will be in at 2 o'clock this afternoon. He was actually here a couple of days ago, and he had to leave because his wife had a baby. And so he rushed back to Tennessee, and he'll be coming back this afternoon. Amy gave birth to Skylar Miller Hall on Tuesday. My brother usually breaks up meetings by saying, I've got to get home, my wife's going to have a baby, and I want to be there when she gets pregnant. Well, he's never been married, so he gets mine. Okay, moving on. Let's get into finance. We have reports from the finance VP and the CFO. We just got passed out, 2 years plus the budget. I don't know how much of these are available, just these Is Joe here?
In detail in the finance workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Randy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing that I really want to comment on is we have received the audited financials for the USCF for the fiscal year that ended in May. And we had an increase in unrestricted net assets of a little over $192,000 for 2011. That's a good year for the USCF, quite frankly. That ends a string of years that we kind of bounced along with small deficits or small surpluses, and it is a positive feature. Without a doubt, there's still some significant challenges. We've been paying down accounts payable related specifically to lawsuits involving the United States Just Federation for the last year and a half. We're moving along in that process, but we still have a ways to go. But to the extent that we're able to maintain that kind of fiscal diligence, that will be good for the USCF going forward. Now, there are challenges in the next year. We had last year some of that surplus is some extraordinary actions that we're taking, some of which involve the USCF's professional staff. They should be commended for their willingness to sacrifice in some areas that they, quite frankly, can't be expected to do that forever. So we're going to continue to have to look for those opportunities to keep the budget in structural alignment. And as the board, we discussed some of those. That will be Alan Priest's challenge as he comes up here after the delegates meeting and has to deal with all that for the next 4 years. But I'm sure he'll do a great job of that. And collectively, the key is that we not think that this means that the USCF has got a lot of spare change laying around to put to this or that priority. Understanding that there are priorities, there's a mission to advance for the USCF, but we need a couple more years of sustained structural balance and some level of increase in our unrestricted net assets before we're in a position to say that beyond trade court, we're actually in a good place with the finances. I'll save the rest for the finance workshop tomorrow.
Okay. Does Joe want to make any comments?
No, I agree with Randy. I think we'll wait to the meeting tomorrow. I think that would be proper forum to bring out everything that a little more, go into a little more depth into the financials.
Okay, that finance committee will be at what time and where?
Oh, I believe that's it. Could be 3 o'clock. I'm not sure. I don't have my schedule with me.
Be on the back here.
1 p.m. Yeah, don't show up at 3, Joe.
1 p.m. 1 p.m. Actually, I have to
Right.
meet with the LMA committee also because there are some issues that I have to go over with them. But I think we'll go into more depth because I think Randy is right because we're not out of the woods yet. We still owe the bank, a couple $100,000, and we have to work our way out of that before we can say that we come out of the woods. So it's going to take a couple more years for us to do that. At least the way things are going right now.
Now, it'll probably be in one of these rooms, this one or the one behind.
It's in this room.
This room at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh, it's in this room.
Okay, good.
Which means you'll all take it.
You can just stay here until.
Sure.
You may do that.
Save your seats.
Yeah.
You may do that.
Okay, committee reports. Government task force, is there any liaison reports?
Doesn't really have a liaison. Doesn't really have a liaison.
What the, the government,
Task force, the chair is, chair.
you have any report?
Well, we have a filed report in the delegates call, and we'll be meeting in the morning, with bylaws and GTF, to discuss the proposed changes to the bylaws coming out of the GTF activities. The focal point of the GTF proposals are to clarify the status of the delegates in relationship to the executive board. I think for a long time, folks figured the executive board was the board of directors. Turns out that probably is not the case legally. The challenge is how to make changes to relieve delegates who don't want to be the corporate directors from the corporate director liabilities, while at the same time maintaining the split of power between the delegates and the executive board. And that's really what that's what the thrust of the GTF has been, to find a way to maintain that split of power and the delegation, retain the delegates' powers that they have now in a way that would be legal under Illinois law, in a way that would function given the unique characteristics of the USCF, and in a way that would clarify the legal status of the executive board as the board of directors. We have a few changes that we'll present tomorrow to the ADM that's in there, that's in the delegates call, because we continue to work on it.
Is that four-page ADM?
That's the long one, yeah. Yeah, it's 1122,
Never mind.
I think.
So they want to keep the power, but not the responsibility.
We want to, no, I don't think that's the case at all. I think what we want to do is maintain the opportunity for the delegates to appoint certain committees, for the delegates to have the ability to maintain the bylaws and the articles of incorporation and make amendments to those, the ability of the delegates to amend and modify the rules, and do things like approve budgets.
I think you have an interesting meeting in the morning. That's 9 a.m. Friday morning at this room or the next room.
I am certain will be interested.
It's in this room.
Okay, this room also. Stay here. Lay a cot out there. Don't miss it.
Jim, are you hosting this summer party?
Yeah. After my game tonight. Okay, incidentally, this gavel, my namesake grandfather's, used it in the Senate of Oklahoma
that's where he got them.
Oh, okay. For the record, this morning, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., there was no motions made in closed session. We had a lot of good discussions, but we never got close to any motions. Okay, moving along, unfinished business, rating issues, policy of adjusting USCF ratings based on FIDE results. Is this a Bill Wicksburg project or who wants to address this?
I've spoken about it in the past. I'm not sure if anything new has come up that we need to talk about.
Mr. Secretary, do you know
But it was still from the last meeting.
Bill Wicksburg? Do you have anything you want to say on it?
You know what I think this is? This is something that's still ongoing and we haven't discussed lately, but I think this is mostly the issue of the complaints that we've gotten about the rating of the world youth, where our players seem to almost always lose points as a group. And we've been discussing that with Mark Lichtman and gotten some recommendations. And the latest I heard is it sounds like he's saying it would be okay to perhaps just not rate employment anymore for players below a certain age. We spoke about this a few months ago and we've gotten a recommendation since then that we haven't really gone any further. I know Bill Wall has a lot of ideas on this. We'll talk about it.
Okay, rating issue number 8.
I have a comment actually on this. I've had conversations with a couple of people who have put forth the idea that perhaps we should reconsider whether we rate FIDE events at all, based on the idea that in some cases players are selectively sending their good results into USCF.
No, that's not happening.
Okay. So we're sure that's not happening.
No, that's not happening, because our policy is to rate all FIDE events, all foreign FIDE events that members play in, and if they already have a rating, we simply check them all, and when FIDE list comes out, and anything that played in counts. Now, we did have, there may still be a little bit left over with this, we did have a procedure some years ago, before we were rating all the events, when a player who was a member, but he was foreign, those were not being included. If they wanted them included, they could send a $25 fee and declare in advance that the tournament they were about to play in would be USCF rated for them. I think only one player ever did that, and that may still be in effect. We may be doing it. But it's absolutely not true that anyone ever had the right to first look at the results and then say, well, this one's good, I'll send this in, and I'll send that one. Has never been.
I have another question. So when one of our players plays a FIDE play without a USCF rating, we pick up the FIDE rating with some kind of conversion formula?
Yes.
And is that formula needs work based on the fact that we've had particularly younger players playing in gold medals and losing USCF rating points?
Well, that formula seems to work well, except for the World Youth and perhaps like the Pan Am Youth. For the FIDE Youth events, the formula doesn't seem to work well in practice. For all the other events, it seems to be fine. For the youth events, our players just always seem to lose points as a group. And Mark Lichtman addressed this about 2 years ago. Made changes in the formula, basically pumping more points in, and in spite of that, they're still losing points as a group. Mark also did a study of this and the reliability of the ratings, and he said that the reliability of the lower FIDE ratings is very low. And the performances, if you graph the performances compared to the ratings, the performances are just all over the place. Which is not the case with the higher ratings. And
So where's the cutoff there? What rating?
well, when you get to the level of like Class A or below, the performances are fairly random. I think expert is quite a bit more accurate than A, and master and up is still more accurate. And one of the things is that I've been talking to Bill Hall about is the possibility of saying, we continue to rate the FIDE performances of our players, but only if the American player has a FIDE rating of at least 2,200. That's one of the things we've been talking about. Now, we've also been talking about doing it based on opponents' ratings. I know Bill Hall feels pretty strongly it should be based on the rating of the U.S. player. And if we do it based on opponents' rating, what you're going to happen is somebody wins a section of the World Youth, but he only plays 1 or 2 players high enough, and he happens to not do so well against them, so then you're still going to have the same problem. He won the tournament, but he lost points. But if you base it on the player's rating, then either his whole performance is rated or it isn't, and he'll know in advance which is the case. So I think that really has more appeal. Everyone will know exactly where they stand. Now, just incidentally, the biggest complaint we probably got was regarding, there was a player who, I forget whether it was a gold or silver medal, but one of our players did very well, I think in under 12, and he lost rating points. And this was presented by some people as virtually a scandal, but it wasn't really quite as bad as all that, because most of the people who played did not have FIDE ratings. Therefore, those games were not rated. And he won all those. And then when you look at the games you played against rated players, the score was not quite that outstanding. It's still pretty good.
So what's the current proposal or the current thinking on how we should try to solve this problem?
Well, certainly one proposal is for players who have FIDE ratings, at least American players with FIDE ratings of at least 2,200, will continue to rate the USCF rating for their FIDE rated games. But if your FIDE rating is under 2,200, then we won't do it. That's one idea, which maybe is a good idea. Maybe we're ready to accept that. I don't know.
Is that being discussed in the ratings committee, or this is working on?
We got a recommendation from Mark Glickman, and he said that sort of approach would be okay. He didn't specifically say 2,200, but he said excluding the lower rated makes sense, because the lower rated you get the less accurate ratings. So, I mean, that's something that maybe we could go ahead and do. I guess I just feel like we should think about it a little bit. We might want to do that here while we're at these meetings, maybe once.
Well, I have another question, actually. I understand there was a discussion in one of the workshops yesterday regarding a delay in rating the FIDE event, which caused a re-rate and a question about what player was eligible to get a certificate. And I'm wondering, was that an acceptable delay, or is it common to have delays resulting in a re-rate that change the whole rating history of the player? Or is that something we need to look at?
Well, the FIDE rating adjustments are made when a list comes in. And the FIDE lists come out every 2 months. So that does cause delay. But I understand that FIDE is planning to switch to monthly ratings pretty soon. I don't know whether it's July. Well, all right, if it's July, it would be immediate. I forget when that goes into effect. Maybe somebody knows that. But I know it's supposed to be pretty soon.
Well, given that we have cutoff dates, and then we have qualification for certain events based on ratings or peak ratings or combinations of USCF and FIDE, or the same event.
I mean, when FIDE switches to monthly, then we'll immediately pick up a month.
So this problem is going away.
So, well, I don't know if it'll completely go away. There's only some delays. But really, I mean, the problem is more of an appearance than it's a real problem. I mean, the problem is you see this rating, and it looks like, hey, I have this nice rating, and then a little later, whoops, I had this FIDE result, which just came in a month late. The rating went down. I mean, really, the players should have expected that to happen. Should have known they had this bad result and then had this rating. Mike Nolan has been doing that, and I think he's had 8 tests to run, and run 4 or something like that. And it's probably going to take another, I don't know, it might take another few weeks or another month to complete the tests. These tests, really, there are 2 things being tested. One is the board, has received complaints, and I received complaints even before I was on the board, ever since 2001, when the K factors were changed, the new rating system went into effect. Several things happened. The K was made a sliding K, and the lower you got, the higher the K. And I think that was one of them for the ratings of 1,000 and 800. The low-rated kids improved very rapidly. It really took care of the problem of them being very underrated. Brought them up to their current strength much more quickly. I think that was very good. But another thing that was done has caused a lot of complaints ever since then. And I think it was not so good, and the board called for this to be changed, and that is around the area of expert and high class A, and maybe low master, the K factor was dramatically reduced. And this wasn't done so much for higher masters because it was already quite low. But for people around 1900, 2000, 2100, their ratings now change almost half as fast as they used to prior to 2001. And I've heard complaints from a lot of these players. I think players want some action. They want their ratings to be able to change, and for the most part, they're willing to take the risk that the change might be down. But they want that shot at, hey, I might be a master someday, I might go up, and I think this change has really been unpopular. And the board considered this in, I think it was November of 2009, and the board asked the rating committee to propose revising the K factors so that the people in this rating area would change more rapidly. Mark Glickman and Mike Nolan did some studies, and we already have some studies showing that if the K was increased in this area, it actually would cause the ratings to be slightly more accurate. I was very happy to see that, because even if it was slightly less accurate, my position was, well, we should still do it, for promotional purposes. It's not really going to hurt it. So it really was nice to see it actually makes the rating more accurate. However, there was a problem with working out some details. I think it caused too much inflation, and now their tests being run is adjusting the bonus and trying to find the right level so that the K factor can be changed the way it should be without causing too much inflation. Then another unrelated issue came in, and that was the issue of high-rated players playing in fast time controls. There's a lot of discussion on, the board has a qualifications committee which discusses qualification requirements for the Olympiad, the U.S. Championship, and some other tournaments. And one of the points that was being made, that John Donaldson especially made at this point, was that when we rate time controls like Game 30, these are not so good for predicting which players are the best players to have on our Olympiad team, and perhaps for some other events. Some players are better at Game 30 than they are at slow time. Other players are worse. And the people on our committee and the strong players that we consulted pretty much all agreed with this. So the question is what to do about this, and after a lot of discussion, what we're looking into now is the possibility of having a lower K for higher rated players when they play fast time controls. One way this might work is if it's a dual rated event, event, game 30 to game 60, it'd be a sliding scale where when you get over 2,200, if you're just a little bit over, it would be almost the same, but as you got higher and higher, the K would decrease until finally, if you got to like 2,500 or something like that, 2,500 or up, the K might be only, well, I think there are various numbers being tested, but it might be only half, it might be only a quarter, and you know, Mark Glickman wants to see what effect this would have. I like the idea because I've been hearing from a lot of players that, oh, the FIDE ratings, they only rate slow time controls, and those are the real ratings, the real accurate ratings, and the USCF ratings are not accurate. And, you know, of course I don't like hearing this. You know, we've always felt our rating system is the best, and you know, there are a lot of advantages to our rating system, a lot of things FIDE doesn't do. Most important is probably FIDE doesn't have bonus points. And as a result, I think those players are systematically underrated in FIDE. They're actually even underrated in USCF, but I think they're more underrated in FIDE. And you know, I'd like to see the USCF rating system have more prestige. And I think that something like this will contribute to that. That you know, for the highest ratings, you know, the very high-rated players, their ratings should be based more on slow time limit play and you know, less on game 30 to game 60. So that's also being studied now. And Mike Nolan, since he had these other tests to run, he's running both sets of tests at the same time. You know, combination of certain ideas of one combined with ideas of another. I haven't seen any of the results yet, but it seems like it's about halfway through.
Okay, 5A4. Credit for titles based on pre-1992 play, USCF. A lot of masters retired in the 90s, and in 92 we went back last year, back to 92, and created the USCF title program. And a lot of masters have candidate master or lower titles. I think Andy Soltis is a candidate master. And so we're working on trying to figure out how to give USCF titles earned prior to 92. Bill Goitsberg.
Well, Soltis is a candidate master, and probably because since 92, when MSA started and we have the records, he probably has not played in these various tournaments. Therefore, he hasn't made any norms. I would guess that probably is. But, I mean, basically what we really want is people should be able to get credit for their accomplishments, and not just for masters, for lower categories also. If somebody wants the second category title, which is equivalent to Class B, and he doesn't play that strength anymore, but he did play that strength in the 1970s, so you know, he might want that title. And you know, it would be desirable if he could get it. But you know, there are a lot of problems. When you go back between about 1982 to 91 to 92, about 10 years back, the last 10 years, you know, before we have records in the computer. For those years, there are printout books in Crossville, and they're huge books, and there are a lot of them. The events are in chronological order, and if you know what you're looking for, you can usually find an event. If you don't know what you're looking for, if all you know is you're looking for a player, it's almost hopeless. So you really have to know what did he play in and when was it. So if a player says, I had good results in the 1970s, well actually not the 70s, but the 80s, but I don't know what I played in, then it's pretty much out of luck. There's no way it can be fair. If he has a pretty good idea what he played in, maybe not exactly, perhaps the office could help him out and do some research. Now, of course, all this costs money, and but that players should be allowed to apply for norms or titles that they may have earned during this period. Now, to make things more complicated, when you go back before 82, from about 77 to 82, the office has records on microfiche. The office is unable to view these records, but I was told if they're taken to some sort of a special facility that can view them, then hopefully they're still okay. The microfiche hasn't decayed or anything, and hopefully they can still be viewed. But I don't think anyone has looked at these records in many years, so who knows what we can find, but hopefully we'll find pretty much the same thing that's on the printout. Then when you go back before 77, there are no records of cross tables at all. But there are copies of rating cards. And the rating cards go back all the way to the 50s, and in fact, they actually go back to the 20s, because when the rating system was started in the 50s, Kenneth Harkness grabbed every cross table he could get going back to the 20s and did ratings for all. So,
1920s in the United States?
yes. There's,
That's even before my time. God
Yeah.
bless you.
yeah, each rating card from about 64 on to 76, the rating card has a column for a code, which is the date and the name of the year and name of the tournament. Then it has another column for the number of games, and then it has the final rating. Now, if you compare, they're all in order. So if you compare the final rating to the next final rating, well, if you see an increase of 100 points or something, that certainly is a norm of some sort. We're not sure exactly what sort, but we asked Mike Glickman to devise some formula. You know, when all we have is the rating cards and we don't have the cross table, some kind of formula for at least approximating what the norm is, so these people can get credit. We know the credit is not going to be precisely correct according to the formula we're using now, but you know, it's still better than nothing. And so I think he's still working on that. Now, prior to 64, it's the same information, but it doesn't show the number of games, so you have even less information. But even without the number of games, if there's a big rating jump, you know, I think the player should get credit. The only question is how much. But you know, you can't really have a big rating jump without having a performance that's much better than your previous rating. The only question is how much better. So, I mean, all this is very complex, and it seems like we're not yet ready to announce, okay, everybody send in your requests.
Okay, Randy Bauer has a comment.
Okay, well, you know, first of all, this idea that we're going to have lifetime titles, but we're only going to count them from 1991 on isn't a good policy. So whatever we settle on, I think if we develop some parameters so that if there is information that's available and people are willing to pay some research fee to the office with scheduled establishments, I think that's fine. And I think there should be ways of collecting information, even if it isn't necessarily the scorecards that the CF has, or you've got, for example, records from state bulletins that you can present that have cross tables and then can make the calculation. I think those kinds of things we just have to build into a policy. And you know, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm not sure what exactly it is that still needs to be accomplished before we can at least start trying to lay out that kind of framework of policy. Because I mean, it is laughable that Andy sold this as a cannabis master in a lifetime norm system for the USCF, and there are a variety of other people that have the same complaints. And you know, for some people, it goes beyond just their ego, which is what it would apply to for me. But there are people that make money off the chess that are particularly happy that they probably have norms for which they should be recognized, and yet they show up in the USCF system as a candidate master or even less than that. So I think we have to have some way of moving this toward.
Okay, the problem is that the masters in the 1970s and 80s who are inactive in the 90s and in the 2000s are teaching chess and coaching chess, and they are advertising themselves as masters. And the mothers get on the MSA and see that USCF doesn't recognize them as masters because they've been relatively inactive since '92. One of the solutions, perhaps, could be that you could request that your USCF title could be erased. Then you could have your old USCF titles earned in the 70s and 80s, and you could not have a conflicting lower title since '92 post on the MSA. Yes, Mike?
We actually have two separate fields. One is the norms-based title, and the other is whether or not they've ever been issued a National Master Certificate. The records on who has been issued a National Master Certificate are incomplete, but if somebody says, hey, I was a National Master in some year, we should be able to add that. I did have somebody ask me the other day, well, what about if I was a Senior Master in some year, which we don't currently have any provision for, but I don't see any particular problem with doing that either. Apparently back in the 70s, the USCF did for a period of time send out Senior Master Certificates like they send out National Master Certificates. So I think we can accommodate those without necessarily having to vacate the norms-based title thing. We could conceivably maybe want to, if somebody has a National Master that only has a level 1 norm based on a few recent events, I suppose we could suppress it or something like that. But if they have the National Master, that's really what people are looking for. So.
Another thing we could do is sort of a temporary quick fix while we're waiting to do things better. We could get rid of, we could look at all the grandmasters and get rid of any embarrassing titles and replace it with either Life Master or Senior Life Master. We could do the same thing for IMs. Have some minimum title, for these FIDE titles, which corresponds to something which they almost certainly would have if you had all the results. And it's just a temporary fix, and it's not for too many players.
Well, we do show what their FIDE title is. So I mean, there's if they have an IM, we would show that. If they have a National Master, we would show that, and whatever norm-based thing they would have. The real question is, which is best? I don't suppose that I know the answer to that uniformly, because I think some people would say, well, I really want A to show, and some say I really want B to show.
Well, but right now we're showing everything. It's just that, for someone like Soltis, and there are other grandmasters like that too, we shouldn't show candidate master. I mean, the fact that he has the grandmaster title, that should be enough to probably show Senior Life Master.
I don't know about Senior Life Master. Certainly Life Master.
Certainly Life Master, but I don't know.
Well, you have to have a FIDE rating of 2,500 these days to get Grandmaster, right? Am I
Yes.
right on that?
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody has Grandmaster title, I think that's probably a reasonable indication that they at some point in time had a USCF rating equivalent of at least 2,500. Because the 2,500 USCF rating would convert into, or 2,500 FIDE rating would convert to about, what, 2,550 or something like that?
Yeah, well, if they're a grandmaster, then they had a number of 2,551 performances. That used to be the requirement.
If we just wanted to automatically say that any USCF member who's a Grandmaster is automatically a Life Senior Master, and anyone who's an IM is automatically a Life Master, that's certainly a policy.
I think that's a good idea.
And that's something that we could implement on the computer relatively easily, which is to say it ain't going to happen this week, but
I'd be willing to make that motion as a starting point.
Yeah, I would support that.
All right.
and similarly, if somebody earned the Senior Master title, USCF rating at 2,600 or 2,400 or higher, certainly somewhere along the line they have to have made Life Master, right?
Yeah, no, I think the chances that...
I think the odds are pretty good.
Yeah, the chances that any IM can make Life Master
Yeah.
over all, it might be theoretically possible.
Yeah, But I don't think anybody would have a major problem with saying, if you ever were a USC senior master, you certainly have earned USCF Life Master. If you ever were an IM, you certainly earned USCF Life Master. If you ever were a GM, you certainly earned USCF Senior Life Master. I don't think that would be an unreasonable policy.
Well, I don't know. The senior master is a little more questionable because you could have had senior master based on not too many games. You know, maybe just the minimum 25 games, and then after that your rating went down. In that case, you know, quite possible you didn't make life. I don't know if there is anyone like that, but you know, it's different than IM.
Yeah.
You know, IM, there's no way. They have to do one.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, I think those are certainly reasonable policies that the board could implement.
Kenny?
Yeah, I listened to this discussion. I'm a lot happier with looking at modifying the regulations for the norm-based titles to accommodate people who have other titles than I am with encouraging dumpster diving by everyone. Part of the point of the norm-based title system, part of its motivation from the beginning, a word that we hear a lot, is promotion and to encourage play. And what we have now is a large class of people who are saying, I don't want to play. I just want my cookie. Now, I agree that there are some poster children we can hold up as very embarrassing situations. I think what Mike has just been talking about is a good approach to doing that. But as a general rule of opening the door to doing special research for 20 years in the past, that doesn't seem to be meeting the goal of promoting chess and encouraging play.
Good point. The executive board will put this on a future agenda, and maybe we'll vote in some of those formulas. Although the purpose, like Ken says, is to promote play. And if we're converting titles to non-active players, we're not promoting, encouraging them to play.
I don't have a response to that. That's fine if that's what our one of goals is establishing a system. But the system also has to have some credibility. And if you've got players that have had, you know, strong results, but there happen to be at points in time that don't align with our current electronic system, I think the titles lose credibility. If you fix a little bit of it so that any sold this isn't a candidate master, fine. But I think we also should find other ways, where possible, to assist in making this system have some value so that when people see lifetime title, they know that that actually means a lifetime to people that are still active in the USCF and not simply the period that we have electronic records to establish these titles.
Frank?
Yeah, one thing you got to consider too, there are a class of people that have stopped playing because of protecting titles. If the titles are cemented, then they'll start playing again. So in one way, it may encourage play. Just a thought.
I think the basic idea of titles is to encourage play, but we also want the title system to be as accurate as possible. And if somebody, you know, clearly played well enough to earn a certain title, I don't think he should be deprived of the title just because it was in the 1970s or 60s. And there are some difficulties in you know, figuring out who's earned the title, but you know, I don't think that they're insurmountable. I think especially, you know, for the years when we had rating cards, when we used a different formula, that's relatively easy. Really, the ones where we used printout books could be a little hard because of the difficulty of finding events. Also, I've looked for certain events in the printout books, and I didn't find the little ones that I looked for. So that could be a bigger problem. So I actually think the rating cards would be easy to work with. So I think this is important. I mean, this should be treated as something serious. I mean, I look at this as sort of like baseball. You know, at some point when baseball became big business and a lot of people were interested in it, people started going back through old newspapers from the 1870s and looking through records and trying to update everything and see how many hits and wins and RBIs and home runs and everything everybody had. And, you know, that was considered important. That's still considered important in baseball. I think in chess, if we say it's not important, we're really putting down chess.
Savon?
The books that we have from the 80s, are those all bound? Are they loose leaf? Are they to be able to have people scan them?
It's a stack of computer printouts that would probably be about 12 feet high.
They're in books.
So they're loose, they're a handful of computer stuff.
Oh,
But
so wide body?
yeah.
Joe is in charge of those books.
Yeah.
We've looked into the cost of scanning and what was the quote? Like
Yeah, it was in the $9,000 to $10,000 region.
Okay. Myra.
Just very quickly, comment was made about if we do this, is it going to not encourage people to play? A lot of people that did get high titles in the early years, what are they doing today? Today they may not be playing actively, but they may be coaching, teaching, helping an awful lot of other people get started in play. And if their title shows something lower than their ability, it's going to hurt their ability to do that. And it seems to me that the idea that was talked about seems fairly easy to at least get the major problems taken care of, and that is if somebody has earned a FIDE lifetime title of IM or GM, then they should at least be a life master. And that can simply override the basic formula in terms of generating the title, and it doesn't sound like it will take an awful lot of work or an awful lot of space.
Well, Randy has moved that, right?
Yes.
What is your?
I moved that.
Do you want to table it for a future, or do you want to go ahead?
All right, this is my last meeting.
Randy, what do you want to do about what women I am and women GM?
Oh, you always have to make things so difficult.
Do you want to move the?
Well, somebody should ask you to go.
This would apply only to.
And FIDE master.
I don't want to master. You want
Oh, feeding master gets really tricky.
Women's school.
I know some feeding masters.
WIM.
Most of our members are not grandmasters. So they're not.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the masters that earned titles in the 80s.
Well, this
And
is.
then their Class A lifetime title in USCF since 1992.
One step at a time, though, Jim. Let's just handle these egregious errors in the system that just make it look silly. So my motion would be that individuals who have achieved the FIDE Grandmaster, not Women Grandmaster, the International Grandmaster title, or the International Master title will be recognized in the USCF lifetime norm system as achieving, in the case of IMs, the Life Master title, and in the case of GMs, the Senior Life Master title.
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Vote? Oh. Are you stretching, Frank?
Trying.
All, now is it, we're talking about the board voting, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes are above the noes.
We always are.
Motion passes.
Not if you're standing on your head.
Okay. We'll wrap that up. Moving on to 5B. Review qualifications for U.S. championships and national team selections.
So we have an effort ongoing to streamline the regulations and make them clear. And a minute ago, Bill talked a little bit about some of the studies regarding the K factors and the fast games that we're looking into. Besides clarifying and making sure our regulations are not contradictory and streamlining them, making them easy to understand, we've interfaced with the top players, and we decided that a good outcome for them would be to
explain this, basic idea is to replace tournament memberships with 3-month memberships. 3-month memberships would include for adult and youth, young adult and youth would include 3 issues of Chess Life. For Scholastic, it would include 2 issues of Chess Life for kids. The cost would be very slightly more in most cases, or maybe in all cases, than what we have now. A number of ideas behind this. One is, since there are only a few issues involved of the magazine, it's possible to include the magazine without raising the price very much. So it's still basically an introductory, cheap type of membership. We don't want to make the cost so high that we go back to the days when there was no tournament membership, and there was a time when the lowest dues for adults were $49, and a lot of affiliates complained about that. And then there was a time when we had a 6-month membership for $25, and not as many complaints, but there were still complaints that, hey, this is just a little club tournament, the entry fee is $5 or $10, why do we have to charge $25? So the tournament membership was put in, and I think the tournament membership has done a good job of allowing affiliates to have their tournaments rated, without hitting people for large amounts of money. I don't think it's done such a good job of bringing those people into the USCF, because even though they could use a part of what they paid as a credit to join the USCF, I mean, most of them didn't join, and I think what we really want is to bring them all in, have them get a few issues of the magazine, and then send them a renewal notice. And while obviously a lot of them won't renew, I think the number that will renew will be quite a bit larger than the number that converted when all they got was one tournament. We're hoping also that some organizers, especially scholastics, will like the fact that, for instance, for an elementary school tournament, for $8, right now for $7 they can play the tournament, and that's it. What we're suggesting is for $8, they get 2 issues of the magazine and they can play for 3 months. I think that's much more favorable for the organizers. They can play a lot of tournaments for 3 months. And hopefully at the end of 3 months, they're sold and they'll renew their membership. Realistically, a lot of them won't, but some of them will. I think we'll get more members this way. I think we'll get more magazine readers this way. I think this will be a good thing for Scholastic and for adults also. And the cost is not that much higher. It's only $1. In the case of Scholastic, it's 8 versus 7. For young adult and youth, it's 10. And for adult, 15. Adult is now 12. So adult would go up $3, and they'd get 3 issues of the magazine, and they'd play for 3 months. So I think it's a much better deal all around. It should promote memberships, and the cost of the publications is covered, so it's not really costing the USCF anything. I think we should get more there.
I agree.
Question, Ralph?
Yes, back in 1991 when they did away with the first junior tournament player, we were asked for statistics because they were given 2 million numbers, so it was easy to pick them out. How many went from JTPs over to regular members? And delegates were told at that time that the computer system just could not give that kind of data. Well, we're well into the 21st century. Surely the computer system at this time should be able to give us specific data on what percentage of these junior tournament players are going into USCF and what percentage are not? Do you have those numbers?
Mike Nolan maybe could answer that. Let me just say first, the 3-month membership would not be replaced with junior tournament membership, the JTP. The 3-month tournament membership would be replaced with JTM, junior tournament membership. Junior tournament membership is $7 for one tournament. So for Scholastic, it would be replaced by $8 for 3 months with 2 issues of the magazine. So we think that's a much better deal. The junior tournament player is a separate issue. I mean, those are allowed now for K through 3 and for in-school tournaments. And I mean, it's a separate issue. I can discuss that also now, or we can wait until it comes up.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were replacing one with the other.
Well, no, we're replacing the JTM, the $7 membership, with an $8 membership. But the junior tournament player, we also propose to get rid of that. That is true, but it's a separate discussion. There's some more things I have to say on that.
Alan, Kentucky.
I think there's costs we're missing in proposing this change. And that, as a person who's done an awful lot of scholastic events, in our area, the scholastic season can be deemed about a 3-month period of time. Right now, we've got folks that buy full membership, participate in multiple tournaments over that period of time. And with this change, they're going to go from paying the full scholastic membership down to doing the tournament, the 3-month membership. And they're not going to renew until they come around next fall. And they're going to do, they only do it in the fall. You know, when you run a tournament that's got 300 players, you process 100 memberships, and they're all renewals, you know, you get an idea there's a cycle there, and I've done that a lot of times. So I think we do run the risk of decreasing revenue from that standpoint. And we're going to send out fewer copies of the magazine because they're not going to get the magazine after 2 copies anymore. Right now they get it all year round. But I think we've missed something that has a possibility. And I don't know that we have the data to measure either one of them.
I think you're right that that will happen. That will be one of the effects. On the other hand, if you have an area where the scholastic season is only 3 months, then they're going to see this as a big dues decrease. I mean, we should be able to get more people running rated tournaments. I mean, they're going to really like this. I suspect there are a lot of other areas where 3 months isn't going to cover, and you need 2 of these. If you need 2 of these, it's really a better deal just to get a full year membership. But you know, it's complex, and yeah, there will be that effect. And I should add also, the intention is, just like tournament memberships, for the national scholastics, you will not be allowed to buy a 3-month membership. You'll have to buy a full membership if you get your membership at the national scholastic. Obviously, if you played before that, you buy a 3-month membership and the 3-month period is still good, then you can use it for the national scholastics. But I mean, a lot of memberships are sold at the national scholastics, a tremendous number. And you know, those memberships will all be full memberships. That is the case now with tournament memberships. But you know, I mean, it's a trade-off. Some people are going to be unhappy that the dues are going up, assuming the dues proposal passes. And some of those people will say, well, it's not so bad because we have these $8 and $10 memberships, and they're real memberships for 3 months. And then you know, there'll be some cases, like Alan said, where they were getting a whole year, and now they're only getting 3 months. And I think the cases where they were getting the whole year, they were getting now, and now are only getting 3 months, the great majority of those were without the magazine. And I think if you say a kid is joining for 3 months and then you won't be a member for another year, and then they'll pay again for 3 months, you're describing the type of player who does not pay extra for the magazine in most cases. So I'm not sure I agree this is going to result in less kids reading the magazine. But in some areas, Yes, it will result in kids expiring soon.
Is it Joe?
Joe, yes. Well, from a marketing point of view, I really like the concept. I think 3 months and a couple of issues of the magazine are enough to give somebody a flavor of what USCF membership is about, and to have the person get used to it. It does strike me, though, that as a trial membership, you might do better if you go a little bit further with it. My recommendations would be, first of all, you only allow one of them. So basically, you can have the one trial, but next time around, you have to buy a full year. Another thing I do is I lower the price to $5. Make it really painless, a nice round price point. You're paying for a couple of issues, which is the only real cost to USCF. And you want more people to do it. And the last thing that I would do is credit the whole $5 towards extending it to an annual premium membership. Basically a one-year membership that would start at the same point the 3 months started. But it's an offer that's only valid if you renew immediately after 3 months. And I think you'll get more people that way.
Go ahead.
I know as an organizer or TD, I don't see how I would have the information that somebody has already purchased a 3-month membership and therefore I'm not allowed to sell him another 3-month membership. How do you tell the TD on duty that this can be done or should not be done?
Does somebody have a USCF member? Has somebody ever been a USCF member? If somebody's ever been a USCF member, then
yes, but you're saying only 1 and 3-month membership. Now somebody comes in, they've already had, I don't know, I only have their expiration date.
Well, essentially, I would say somebody who has ever been a USCF member is ineligible because they already know what USCF is about.
So that's the way you want to have it set up?
It makes sense to me. Joel's point makes sense to me. You've already forfeited your right to a cheap new membership because you already have a number.
Yes, but you might have a number because of a JTP and you've never really been a member.
Mike?
Almost any time we've tried to do one-time only deals, they've been an administrative disaster, both for the office and for all of our TDs and organizers. The reasons for that, some of them have already been outlaid. Organizers do not have all the information that they need. Players show up at tournaments, they don't know if they're a USCF member or not. So you have somebody that shows up, and then he doesn't remember he played in the tournament last year. I've had,
or 8 years ago.
Or 8 years ago, I've had players show up at tournaments. The mother swears up and down, there is no way my kid has ever played in a tournament, when I know for a fact he played in my tournament a year ago. So they're just, and I don't think, I think they're just, they forget. And that's the problem. Huh? Conveniently, yes. Because I look them up in the USCF records and we have the same person, same birthday, same address, same email address. Obviously, they were a member. They just don't remember it or they don't want it. So you're going to run into a situation, you're actually encouraging people to lie to you. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't have any problem with a program that says, this a trial membership as opposed to a tournament membership, as opposed to other sorts of things. But let's keep something that's implementable, which means that anything that has a one-time only usage on it is just not a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also I don't like thinking of this 3-month membership as a trial membership. I mean, in cases where the player is new, well, in effect, it is a trial membership, but there are going to be a lot of cases where the player's been around for a while, and he just wants to save money on his membership, and as a result of the membership being available, the tournament is raised. Now, there are going to be organizers who, if they don't have a cheap membership, and they have to charge more, the tournament won't be raised, and then we won't get any members. I'm willing to say, look, we'll take $8 for for 3 months from kids, or 15 from adults, or 10 from older kids, for 3 months, and when the 3 months are up, if they want to come back 3 months or 6 months later and pay the 3 months again, fine. I mean, I think we'll collect enough of these so we'll have enough money that we're financially okay, and from the standpoint of membership, our membership will definitely go up because we won't have any non-members in our tournaments anymore. Everyone will be a member, and we'll have more members who get the magazine, at least get a few magazines, and get to see what it's like before they decide they don't want it. And, you know, there'll still be the non-magazine option, but, you know, I think we should have more people at least start out with the magazine and get a chance to read it.
Does that mean that house players will have to become members?
No, house players do not have to become members.
This may be a minor issue, but it's just a financial one. If you have very often foreign players who come in who play only one tournament, they only have a foreign address, what do you do about the magazine? You'll have to only mail it to a U.S. address because it's going to be very costly to mail 3 issues to Argentina or something like that.
There's 2 things we could do. One is if we just do what we're doing now, they'd have to pay the postage for a quarter of a year. I don't think it's even worth the bother. I think we probably should just say you have to live in the U.S. or maybe the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. You have to live in or near the U.S. to buy this kind of membership.
Or give a U.S. address because a lot of them are coming in because of
Now, the foreigners could still buy the membership, but they just wouldn't get any magazine, unless they can provide a U.S. address.
Okay, well, you know, as long as that's understood when they purchase it.
Well, there was a tournament director of note who put in an international player with the address of Royceburg, USA.
So would this, to clarify, would this completely replace the one tournament membership?
Yes.
I think you're, perhaps I misunderstood all the way along, but I think you're missing the point of that, or forgotten the point of that one tournament membership. It's not. There may be an ulterior motive there to make him eventually a full member or to sell some more magazines, but the point was to cover the guy who's driven across town, dying to play in that tournament, and he hadn't got $42 or $32 or whatever it is. He's got $10. And everybody wants him to play. And that's it. If it subsequently develops that yes, he can take $7 of that $10 and put it against the magazine, to me that's a totally separate issue. We want the man there. We want him to play. And he's poor.
Well, how does this
got any money?
That could still happen. I mean, a lot of these will still be bought for exactly the reason you just said, because they're cheap. And they won't care about the magazine. But they'll get it anyway, and some of them might not even like it. But I mean, the low price will still be there. Just go up a little bit.
Well, I hear the focus turning a lot more on, well, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, no, our focus is different. We're hoping to retain some of these players as members. But also, I think we recognize the main advantage of this is that it's cheap, and it does exactly what you just said, and it's still going to be cheap. I mean, for adults, it'd be $15 instead of $12. You think that $3 is going to make a big difference? You know, they'll get, and then they can play for 3 months. I think it'll be widely seen as a better deal.
It's cheaper than buying 3 different individual tournament memberships.
I don't know many people who play for tournaments. 3 months.
Any other questions? Okay.
system we have in place now is basically the same one that I described at the April meeting, where we have, we put in a starting date and an ending date for when somebody's term is, and under current rules, we also put in whether or not they've acknowledged. That information is collated every day and uploaded to the website in a place. So I think what we have is adequate now. What we had some months ago is a separate matter.
From the audience, any questions? Okay. Next is computer infrastructure update.
I'm still waiting for money. We got to buy equipment at some point in time, or we got to figure out what we're going to do with it. And until somebody tells me I can spend money, nothing's going to happen.
So I think this is a bill hall.
Yeah, this is a bill hall.
Agenda item, and we need to wait.
Yeah.
until it gets here. So we skip over this one. Respond to have a comment.
Yeah, I can put it on my record.
Can we have, can Mike or Bill or the EB put together a list of the equipment that we're looking for purchase? Because I can run it also through the Dell Foundation to see if we can potentially, since we're a nonprofit, to be able to sit here and see if we can get it at a greatly reduced rate. So all I would need would be a list of the of what we're looking for in terms of servers, software, desktops, laptops.
What kind of discount do you get?
I don't know. I would run it through the foundation to see if they can do it as a donation first, and then I would run it through the sales organization to see if we can't do it as a donation, what's the best rate they can provide.
Okay, we'll look into that. Yeah.
Mike, there was $30,000 in the budget last year for computer replacement and office infrastructure replacement. Do you know what that replaced?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question.
Last year, there was $30,000 in the budget to buy new computers and I think maybe perhaps a phone system. Do you know what got used out of that?
No, I just wasn't told I could spend any.
Mike,
We'll have to wait for Bill Hall. Did you have a question?
there were only some laptops purchased last year. There was nothing done on any servers. There was nothing done on the phone system. We only bought some laptops last year.
So no printers, no anything else, no servers,
No.
just laptops?
No.
Okay, so we'll have to wait till Bill Hall gets here and get a report on that.
Keep going, Ruth.
Okay. So this, we'll come back to this. US Open location for 2013.
At this point, we're looking at Atlanta, Georgia, and that is an option for
Have any other options?
right now. That's all we have. It's just Atlanta.
Can't hear you.
St. Louis, 204.
We can't hear over here. We have no idea what
Can't
was
do
just
it.
said.
Okay, what was just said was 2013, let's see, 2012 Vancouver, 2013 US Open in Atlanta.
We're looking at Atlanta.
Atlanta's the top candidate at the moment. And in 2014, St. Louis is a top candidate, or is already past top candidate.
Yes.
Okay, I have to ask, why is Atlanta the top candidate for next year?
Just in searching for somewhere, any suggestions are welcome. We looked in the Chicago area.
What do people in this room right now think about this location for a U.S. Open? Does anybody have any strong feelings about that?
One way or the other.
All right.
Frankly, we've all been hearing about airport hotels and going to various airport hotels. This is the first airport hotel we've actually been at. And I think it's very, very convenient from the standpoint
standpoint of all the workshops, the playing area, everything being self-contained, not having to worry about time and money spent commuting between an airport and a hotel. I think it's an excellent site. As far as, granted, food is expensive inside the hotel, but you've got a food court that's at least manageable within walking distance even for me, and that's saying something.
They have the moving walks, so that helps.
I think from the standpoint of what you'd like in a U.S. Open, this is almost ideal. Granted, everybody's going to want to go to the main attractions, and that's fine. But for somebody who's coming to the U.S. Open, they can spend the entire week here, never leaving the building, never being concerned about hurricanes or thunderstorms. Those of you who remember the meeting a few years ago,
we have a hurricane coming our
middle of a
direction.
hurricane.
We have a hurricane that's going to arrive Saturday.
Separated. This is a wonderful change. So yeah, I strongly
I have found you got to
appreciate this site.
You got to be careful what line you stand in because you're liable to end up in Dusseldorf.
That's true.
Mr. Gray, you had a comment about.
No, it's all right.
Other comments back here? Go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, as one who is not staying at the hotel, the parking situation is a bit much. You are essentially trapped here. Once you are here, you're stuck. You cannot go in and out without paying additionally. Yeah, in theory we have these, well, in practice we have these $4 coupons, but you have to repeat this process several times if you want to go in and out. I'm not happy with toll roads. I have finally figured out how to avoid them.
So why
yeah,
aren't you
as a
staying
player,
here?
what?
Why aren't you staying here?
I am paying $40 per night, including tax, for my hotel. I think that's about a $70 per night savings. So yeah, that's why I'm not staying here. I can't afford $100 a night plus tax.
Luis?
All I was going to say is, for the traveler who's flying in, this is great. The lighting is great. I'm more concerned on how are your numbers from the local people. Most locals don't like to go to airport hotels. I mean, hotels inside the airport. So I just would like to see some numbers. Was your local turnout as expected? Was it poor? Was it great?
Yeah, all I've got is anecdotal, and I'm told that it's low.
Was another comment, Ralph?
I always drive to U.S. Opens wherever they are because I enjoy the scenery. But the parking here is a lot more if you're staying here than if you're just going in and out like Guy. Parking here costs me 3 times what it has cost me at any other U.S. Open.
At $12?
Yeah, I've never paid more than 4 at any other U.S. Open.
I had commented on the forums that my wife and I vacationed in Chicago a few weeks back and paid $60 a day for parking, so 12 just doesn't seem that unreasonable to me.
I was in Ottawa, Canada recently and was 17.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't pay $60 for parking.
If you come to Kansas City, it's $5.
One of the only
Yeah,
things
sure.
I object to here is the often fast food and the food court or the hotel food. You don't have a lot of restaurant options.
Well, actually you do. If you keep going to the airport, you do. You have like macaroni grill. Macaroni grill.
Yes,
in the
but that's
airport.
about the only one, is sit-down
There's Chili's
restaurant.
too, and there's
Chili's.
CTI fries.
But there are very few options.
There's not a lot.
I mean, you know, unless you do have a car or if you want to pay
taxi fare or something to go into Orlando. I mean, it's not a very large objection to not hold it here, I guess, but it is a concern.
But if we're US open location, I think we covered that.
Okay, do we have other comments? If we do have other comments, oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, there are lots of locations around here, but it sounds to me like the draw of this place is if you fly in. If you rent a car, like Guy, I drove down here, it's a whole lot more than just $4 a day or $12 a day. I'm still trying to find my car from yesterday that I parked at. It's a nightmare around here. It's a lovely facility. It's a space city is what it is. I think it's too nice. And the parking alone, tremendous walking from the parking lot to other places in this facility. It's tough.
One thing I would note about it is that that's the best lighting I've seen in a US Open tournament. I was very impressed with that. And the meeting facilities are nice too. And those are all things in some other places where we've been.
Lighting was just as good as it was now. But I think it was worse everywhere else.
Everybody's wondering.
I have no complaints. I think it's, I mean, fortunately, I flew in. I was amazed that I just had to walk to the hotel and I had to get a shuttle. So, as you said, Randy, the playing facilities are first class. The meeting facilities are first class. Everything's on one